Hello and happy college football weekend. Welcome to the End Zone, our weekly college football preview show. Along with my co-host TJ Eckert, our QB1, I am Colby Daniels, and we are joined by a very special guest from Soonerscoop.com, the Franchise Morning Show, a long list of other affiliations, and some might argue his deserving place on the list of distinguished OU alumni. Eddie Radosevich joins us. Eddie, we're happy to have you this afternoon.
Gentlemen, thank you. I am usually left out of a lot of stuff like this, but I'm excited for this. And it's, it's kind of weird that we're already headed into week 3, but at the same time, getting on the alumni distinction roster.
Good for you.
That was like a varsity moment for me.
Yeah.
I might get a letter jacket because of it.
Now, this is cool because we are all friends. We all get along really well.
I think so.
That might be debated in just a moment, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But this is a college football preview show, right? So we're getting ready for the weekend. We've got plenty of highlights. I feel like we always talk offense, we always talk defense, but special teams is somewhat left out of the equation. Eddie, you are a special teams specialist, some might say. So
That's right.
I think it's only fitting for us to play a special teams highlight out of the gate.
Yeah, let's see that. You remember this, right?
Oh, this is basically kind of one of my functions on game day. Just making sure the ball's down. You don't want to have any bad returns. And, there was a lot of slander out on the internet because of this moment.
What's happening here? What's going on?
Well, I'm so focused on the game. I, unfortunately, TJ, did not see your hand extended. And
for a while.
The video producer, Britton Ross, I think he slandered me a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. He slandered me a little bit. But I got you at the very end of that.
Well, there's no more video, so we'll never know. Let's just
We'll never know if that actually happened. But I said we were all friends. That doesn't look very friendly.
I'm not completely a part of this liberal news agenda, all right? I'm not trying to make any enemies here, but I did get you at the end.
He did get me. It was again, that video was frozen for about the length of time that it took for him to give me a high five.
That's right.
But,
well, I was so focused. It's the first game of the year. Everybody's getting into the swing of things. It's kind of like the Oklahoma offense right now.
Well,
just slowly but surely getting underway.
We'll probably get into that. I think that'll be a topic of the conversation today, Colby. Maybe.
That's right. It was week 1 for everyone. So you were going through your early season struggles, much like OU offense. I don't know if it's early season struggles. Is it injuries? It was asked of Brent Venables earlier this week, but the offense got worse in week 2 following a performance in week 1 that left many Sooner fans pretty unsatisfied.
Yeah, you could say that. I think the fine people of social media and the message boards that are ready to fire Seth Luttrell after 8 quarters, bench Jackson Arnold after 8 quarters and basically 3 games. It's been interesting. And, I think that Brent's right. Like, you look at everything that has happened as far as the offensive line. You can't run the ball right now, and a lot of that has to do with injuries up front. You have also the idea of having to get a bunch of guys in there with chemistry that haven't really played together, and it's been a little bit of everything, whether it be injuries, whether it be poor play like we saw on Saturday night against Houston. It's concerning. I would say that. It's definitely concerning right now.
The biggest problem to me is that it's a combination of a lot of things. Normally you can say, oh, well, it's the receiving core. Well, you can just find other guys to throw to, right? Or the run game's struggling because the running backs aren't finding holes. Well, then put someone else in that can do that. Right now, it's so many different things that you can't put your finger on one of them. That makes it more difficult to me.
Yeah, and I think that they got to be able to find a way to run the football.
Yeah.
And I think it obviously starts at center. They are basically on their 4-string center right now, and that's concerning, right? It's very concerning considering where they were a year ago. You bring in Branson Hickman, he goes down, he nursed some stuff through the preseason, and then all of a sudden in the first series of the season, he's hobbling off onto the field, or off to the sideline.
Right.
It's worrisome. I think that Josh Bates, he's learning on the fly, basically having to make some calls up front, and because of that, I think that you're starting to see an offensive line that did play better against Houston, but at the same time, it's so far from what they want to be able to do in terms of establishing any type of run game, which as playing quarterback makes it harder to throw the ball. Yeah. And I think that then when you get on outside of the run game, Jaden Gibson going down was big. He had a big spring. He had a really good preseason. They were expecting him to make that jump. Yeah. You go into the first game, you see Branson Hickman go down, and then all of a sudden Jalil Farouk broke his foot. And, I think that when you can tie that into the run game, you lost Drake Stoops obviously a year ago. Those are probably your 3 best blockers out on the edge. So you're not able to get anything inside. You can't bump anything outside, and it's become a little bit of a problem as Oklahoma welcomes Tulane this weekend.
Nick Anderson hasn't been available. Andrell Anthony is yet to return to form as far as what we saw from him a year ago. Jackson Arnold is still finding his way as a starting quarterback. And you have a new offensive coordinator in Seth Luttrell that's, trying to find his rhythm. It's the 108th total offense right now in the country after 2 weeks
Not great.
of college football. Only 2 teams have a worse third down percentage than they do. And, when you look at the third down, it's not just third down, it's the lack of execution on first and second down, where I think last week 10 of their third down opportunities were 3rd and 7 or longer.
Yeah, and first and second down, I think through the season, through the first 8 quarters of the season, they're averaging about 2.5 yards a carry, which is completely awful. I mean, we started
Really
looking
bad.
back at some of the offenses that Baker played in, that Sam Bradford played in. I think he's number 3 all time for plays per or yards per attempt at 8.3. So it has to be fixed, or you're just going to put that much pressure on Jackson Arnold as a freshman. I think that's one of the things. It's like we talked about this offense going into the season, coming out of the spring, going into the preseason. You were always going to have highs and lows, right?
Yeah.
But I don't think anybody expected them to struggle as much as they have against Temple, who is one of the worst G5 schools in the country.
Right.
Houston, who statistically is one of the worst P4 schools in the country. It's a serious issue that Oklahoma is going to have to kind of tackle. And I think that, the good news is it can be fixed. I'm not thinking that this offense is all of a sudden going to flip around and you're going to score 60 points a weekend.
Right, yeah.
But if you could find a way to get to, I think is what we're saying around the Scoop offices, 28 points, maybe you could live with that.
Right. I think that'd be good. The defense has not been a problem.
No.
That's been something that's looked really good. Zach Alley, you see that great mustache, by the way. They're doing a really good job on that side.
Absolutely, and I think that that was kind of the expectation. They were going to take that jump in year number 2 or year number 3 from year number 2. Historically, Brent Venables' teams take that massive jump, quote unquote, defensively. And when you have as many guys that returned with experience as a Billy Bowman, Kenai Walker played a little bit last year. Woody Washington's obviously back; he's an elder statesman, and then Danny Stutzman. I thought Danny Stutzman against Houston was about as dominant in a single game as I've seen an Oklahoma defensive player in a long time.
Let's quickly, I know we got to talk about OSU a little bit, and I want to talk about Tulsa. I'm biased. OSU Tulsa.
We love Tulsa.
Yeah, you love Tulsa.
We love the
Big
Tulsa football
guy.
program.
You've
Absolutely.
always been a big Tulsa fan.
I've always been
Longtime
a
fan.
prominent supporter of the program up there, and especially Kevin Wilson.
Big Kevin Wilson fan. What do you think of the Cowboys so far this year?
They've been good. I think that, obviously, Arkansas game, I think everybody looked up at the, mid-first quarter. It's like, they're going to turn it around. Mid-second quarter, they're going to turn it around. Then halftime is like, okay. Third quarter, never, but they still won. And I think that, when you look back at the past couple seasons, they've lost a game like that where you didn't expect it. And I think that they have a lot of veteran guys. I think that you have to like that about that team. It's going to be interesting to see how they go about replacing Colin Clay, obviously, with the injury last week. But I like the pieces. And I think that that's one of those teams, even throughout the summer, that we talked about when the win-loss over-unders came out. It's like, why is it so low? Why is Oklahoma State not getting the respect? I guess at least here regionally, and I think third place preseason, it was kind of confusing to me, but we'll see. Mike Gundy just wins. It might be ugly, but he just wins.
The thing is about Oklahoma State, maybe people were picking up on the defensive struggles from a year ago. They gave up so many explosive plays. That defense right now, after 2 weeks, has given up a ton of 10-plus yard plays. Only one team in college football has given up more explosive plays than the Cowboys early on.
Yeah, it's troublesome, but I think that when you give up big plays, that's probably meaning that you're having some type of bust on the back end. You're not filling the right gap. You're not having guys in the right spot. I think that much like Oklahoma offensively, you can fix that, and I think that they've recruited enough to get guys in there that at least through that first 2 deep to be able to fill injury spots.
We are going to take a timeout, and we're going to put Eddie in the hot seat as he tries to move the chains on the other side of this timeout. Along with TJ Eckert, I am Colby Daniels. Eddie Radosevich with us here on Episode 1 of The End Zone. Welcome back to The End Zone. Eddie Radosevich is our guest, along with TJ Eckert. I am Colby Daniels. Eddie is going to try to move the chains. So the goal here is for Eddie to answer questions or statements in a satisfactory way.
We can do
for
that.
TJ and I. So we will
to us,
Okay.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
right. So we will judge your answers, and you're going to start with 1st and 10.
Okay.
Depending on how well you answer the question, you might end up with 2nd and 15. But you got to try and move the chains in this segment.
I think I can do that.
Okay. All right, so the questions may not be that easy, but you're going to have to dig deep, much like
can
OU
try.
had
We
to
can
in the
try.
fourth quarter against Houston
luck.
last Saturday. All right, question number 1. On 1st and 10, Eddie, why will the Oklahoma offense look improved this Saturday?
Can it get worse? Can it get worse than what
Great
we've
answer.
seen? No, I think that if you needed some type of wake-up call, this should have been it. And you would hope that all the identification stuff, communication stuff, and maybe even just rolling with the same 5 guys up front, that should be a positive in the grand scheme of things. Obviously, Tulane's a little bit better defensively than what they've seen against Temple and Houston, but at the same time, I don't know. It feels like they've kind of hit rock bottom, hopefully, for Oklahoma fans, and we'll see what comes out on Saturday.
That was a 2-yard gain, much like the OU offense.
Yeah,
So-
that's about on course. That's
Second-
about par for the course.
2nd and 8. Let's hop over to the other game. Why is Tulsa going to cover the 20-point spread, Eddie?
Historically, it sounds like Oklahoma State or Tulsa plays pretty well against
they do.
Oklahoma State. So, there's a lot of points there. Obviously, the 20.5 right now, or 20
Something in
points
there, yeah.
in that area. I could easily see it being a 4-touchdown game, and maybe you get some of those starters out to
Sure,
get ready
yeah.
for next week when Utah comes to Stillwater, and maybe Tulsa scores late, covers, and everybody's somewhat happy. Take Oklahoma State in the first half.
Okay, I heard a maybe they cover. So I will say that's a hit in the backfield.
Oh,
no.
You're able to maybe dodge a couple other tacklers, lean forward. I'm going to go with a 1-yard loss.
Okay.
Well,
So we have a
3rd and long.
3rd and long.
This sounds very
Here
familiar
on
to
this
what
initial
Oklahoma's
move
been
in
in.
the
So I'm
chain.
actually really comfortable right
You're
now.
fitting right in.
Yeah, I'm feeling really
absolutely,
comfortable.
Right where you need to
absolutely.
be.
All right, 3rd and long, Eddie. Why will Oklahoma finish 8-4 or better after what we've seen earlier?
Well, I think to do that, you're going to have to think that Oklahoma's going to be much better than what they have been offensively. I do think that, as we kind of talked about earlier, this is a defense that is starting to take the turn. And you're obviously going to kind of see what they're really, truly made out of over the next 2 weeks against Tulane. And Darian Mensah, who kind of came out of nowhere, has been moving the ball really well for the Green Wave, taking over for Michael Pratt. And then, obviously, kind of the big test with Nico and friends and Josh Heupel coming into town next week. If you can lean on a defense that's forcing turnovers that, since Brent has got here, has been really good at forcing turnovers, maybe you give the offense a short field. Now, you're going to have to score when you do that, and the way the Oklahoma's kicking game is right now, I don't know. But I think that they can find a way. Maybe you can stumble into an 8-4. Some of these games are still coin flips in my mind.
So it was a good answer. It was optimist, somewhat pessimist. So it was good. It was a good balance. We're going to say 4th and 1. Let's have
Okay.
some fun.
Let's
We're
go
gonna
for it.
Go
Go
for
Do
it.
it just short of the chains.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
but we're at
All right.
midfield. We're going to go for it. And I want you to answer and tell everybody why this OU defense is legit. We've talked about the offense and the opponents being poor. Can we trust that this defense is legit?
It feels like it is. And I think that the biggest thing for the Oklahoma defense right now is they have a lot of depth. And you like what they've been able to do in terms of recruiting over the last couple of years, especially since Brent got here. They've started to get guys that look the part.
Definitely.
And that's, I think, half the battle. Now, you obviously got to get them to play better. You've seen the defensive line, and I think the interior rotation was going to be something a lot of people wondered about going into this season. So far, so good. Grayson Halton's coming off of a week in which he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Week. I don't think anybody would have thought that at the beginning of the year.
Probably not.
Probably would have gone with Dominic Williams or DJ Terry, but they've been really good. And I think the test is going to be upcoming with some better offensive lines.
Yeah.
But you do like the depth. It feels like this thing is real. And, it's been a comfortable transition for Zach Alley taking over for Brent Venables calling the plays.
Yeah.
Smash Mouth football, I'm giving him the first down.
I'll give it to him.
Just
let's move them
by the
chains.
nose of the football, Eddie Radosevich moving the chains. All right, coming up next, Mike Gundy's press conferences have become must-see TV. Is
No
Mike
doubt.
Gundy a media genius?
Oh.
Mike Gundy has been at Oklahoma State, guys, for 20 years. He's had so many viral moments, and I feel like every time I'm at a Gundy press conference, it's must-see TV, right? There's some sort of sound clip that ultimately hits the internet, and I see tweeted by people outside the state of Oklahoma. This week was no different. Once again, starting out the press conference, his dogs come in, and then Robert Allen asked him a question, and Gundy was having none of it.
So good.
Receiver. Well, you're a homer is the first part because they were running wide open. Thank you. You're wanting to make it look better, and honestly, they were running wide open. Now,
I asked for it.
well, it's all right. We're honest here. I mean, there's no reason anybody should come to these press conferences if we're going to bullshit each other. So the point being is that they were running wide open.
I mean, he is a homer. I mean, that's
Well,
glad
he
that
is
was
a homer.
acknowledged. He
They
works
were
for the
running
school,
wide
so-
open, and I love that Gundy's just calling it like it is, right?
Right.
There were times that I think the media in general criticized him for maybe being too guarded. He seems to be as comfortable in his skin as ever, and that's, I think, given us the opportunity to see who Mike Gundy is. And look, there's a very likable side to his personality, whether you're an OSU fan or not.
The man is an absolute gem. And the next time that he goes to the lake, when he gets the new boat, if he has the new boat yet,
I'm sure.
I'm ready to go. I want to get an invite to the Gundy Lake House. That would be quite fun.
We'll see if we can get that question
I mean,
asked,
I don't know if there'd be a better coach to just sit on the back patio with, because he has great stories, I'm sure.
Great stories.
He was hot on Monday, though.
He was absolutely hot.
Love
Great
it.
stuff.
And you know when they're coming out of a game like they did, I don't know if it's like a transition of let's not talk as much about Arkansas, but I love it. I love it when the mic is in front of Mike Gundy.
Maybe if you get the invite to the Lake House, you can take a ride in the old Ford Taurus.
Oh.
As Gundy was asked about one of his players and references a Ford Taurus.
Do you want coach's talk or the truth?
I always want truth.
He was inexpensive, and he was a hell of a get for this price. So forever, it used to be the old Ford Taurus. You could get it. It's relatively inexpensive, good gas mileage,
Ford Taurus,
and you
gas
could
and
go
trade.
coast to coast, and you'd have a really good chance of getting there. The old Honda Accord. Okay, I'm more for American-made products, but
That's awesome.
There you go. He's like a Ford Taurus. What college football player doesn't want to be compared to a Ford Taurus?
When Gundy's teams are good, that's when he has a lot of fun at the bottom. When they're struggling, he kind of keeps it close to the vest.
Sure.
He knows he has a good team right now, so he's able to say these things.
Hey, this is the day and age that we live in. I like a coach that is going to at least be honest with you, and Mike Gundy certainly is that. And the Ford Taurus is going to need to play a little bit too with Colin Clay out.
All right, we are going to take our final timeout. Games of the week coming up on the other side of the break, and we make our game picks along with TJ Eckert and Colby Daniels. Along with TJ Eckert and Eddie Radosevich, I'm Colby Daniels. This is the End Zone. We have a big weekend ahead of college football matchups. It is time for game picks to wrap up this edition of the End Zone. Alabama at Wisconsin. This is a fun non-con game for the Crimson Tide. The big noon kickoff. TJ, Alabama, Wisconsin, 16-point spread in favor of the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, give me the Crimson Tide. I think they'll end up covering there in Madison. I'm not sure how good Wisconsin is this year. Bama trying to make a point early in the season. I'll take the Tide.
I do think that Luke Fickell's going to get this thing turned around at some point. And, kind of like some of these other games, I think that maybe a late touchdown from Wisconsin covers, but Alabama wins easily.
Okay.
Give me competitive game early, but I think with a statue quarterback, the Alabama defense ultimately shuts down Wisconsin in the second half and separates. All right, game number 2. We have LSU, South Carolina, a couple of Oklahoma's future opponents this football season. This is a 7-point spread. TJ, what do you got?
Yeah, give me Beamer ball, man. Shane Beamer. I know the offense is getting some hate right now, but at home, I like their chances. LSU has not impressed me early this season.
Confidence is kind of a funny thing, and you get a really good stadium like they play in South Carolina and Columbia. It's hard to go against what Shane Beamer did. I know he surprised everybody last week. Give me the +7.
I will take the +7 as well, and I think there's a really good chance South Carolina wins outright in this matchup.
Dylan
LSU has
Stewart,
not been
stud.
That's right. LSU has not been overly impressive, and I think South Carolina is just solid on both sides of the football. All right, game number 3, BC at Missouri.
Yeah, give me Mizzou. Don't care what the line is. Mizzou looks good early.
I kind of like Bob here. Bill O'Brien, he's kind of turned that program around. I like the Costello kid that played really well against Florida State. They're going to try to shorten the game. I like BC, and I think it'll be close in the 4th.
It's a lot of points. Give me the points. I'll take BC as well, but Missouri to win. All right, Oklahoma State at Tulsa. This was a great game in 2021. Oklahoma State 28-23 win in Stillwater. This one's in Tulsa, TJ.
Yeah, give me the Cane. I think they're going to keep it close. I don't think they're going to win, but I think they keep it within 20.
I know I tried to get the first down earlier and made the case for Tulsa covering, but something tells me Oklahoma State woke up a little bit, got the release from the exhilarating style of the win last week, and they cover for a second straight week, which was a surprise last week.
Ollie Gordon, much bigger day, Oklahoma State. All right, Sooners, Tulane. This was an interesting spread. 14 points, TJ.
Get right game, I think, is the phrase that they're using in Norman right now. Let's call it that. I think the Sooners end up covering.
I was blown away when I saw that it was a 2-touchdown favorite, but at the same time, Vegas ain't wrong very often. Give me Oklahoma, and I think they win comfortably.
I thought Tulane gave up a lot of pressure against Kansas State last week, and that's where really the strength of this Oklahoma football team is, especially on the interior of that defensive line. So give me Oklahoma to cover the 14 against Tulane. All right, gentlemen, that's it for us here on the End Zone. Eddie, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
It's been a ton of fun.
I had a great time.
For TJ,
there we go.
I'm Colby Daniels.
There we go.
Everybody have a great college football weekend.